Hey guys, this is Video Vince with Camera Exchange, and today I have the Sony ZV-1, which is touted to be a vlogging camera. I'm in San Antonio's Botanical Garden. We're gonna do a little bit of a different style video today. I also am using the onboard mic. So let's do a little bit of walking around. We are in a public space. I am carrying a mask, and you know, if there is people around, I will put that mask on. But since there's not very many, I wanted to talk freely with you guys. So let's walk around, take some video, take some photos, and see how this camera does. Alright guys, so when talking about the ZV-1, you are getting a 1-inch 20 megapixel backside illuminated sensor. Now, that is the same exact sensor that you will find in the Sony RX100 series. So the ZV-1 isn't necessarily replacing the RX100 series, but instead it is sitting right next to it. Now where they do differ is in the lenses. With the ZV-1, you are getting a 24 to 70 millimeter equivalent with the aperture of 1.8 to 2.8. And on the RX100 series, you are getting a 28 to 200 with the aperture of 2.8 to 4.5. So that's where they differ a bit. And of course, the RX100 series has been around for quite some time, and it is known for its fantastic image quality and fantastic features when it comes to photography. So the ZV-1 again is touted to be more of like a vlogging style camera. So let's keep walking around and see what else we can get into. So let's talk about the fit and finish of the ZV-1. So the ZV-1 is made of nothing but plastic, but that is awesome because it feels nice, lightweight, and it almost doesn't make it feel like you're carrying any camera whatsoever. To be honest, my iPhone XR does feel a little bit more heavier than the ZV-1, and of course the ZV-1 has a bigger sensor. So if you don't feel like taking photos with your camera, the ZV-1 is a pretty good option to have with you. Now, it is pretty pocketable as well, especially when the lens is collapsed into its body. And if you don't feel like holding it on a tripod or even like the shooting grip that I have it on right now, you can just slip it into your pocket, or if you have a small camera bag, you can just throw it right in, take it out whenever you need to. One of the things that I really did like that Sony put on the ZV-1 was it gave it a little rubber attachment already attached to the body itself. It gives you a little bit more confidence when holding the camera, unlike the RX100 series where it felt like it was just slipping out of your hand, and to have that grip, it was an additional cost, which was unfortunate. But again, fantastic feel of the camera regardless of it just being all plastic. So let's keep walking around. Okay, so let's talk about autofocus a little bit. So it being a Sony camera, you know that the ZV-1 is going to have fantastic autofocus functions. Starting out, it does have 315 phase detection autofocus points. Still not as fast as the RX100 series, but still pretty great. I definitely wouldn't hold it against it as being a bad autofocus system. And it also being a Sony, you can tell that it is having real-time tracking and eye autofocus. So even though that this is a little bit smaller camera and a more compact camera, Sony put all of its great autofocus features into this camera as well. So those autofocus functions are something that you definitely want, especially if you're out vlogging like I am today. But let's keep walking around. Alright guys, so that's going to wrap up the time that I'm here at the Botanical Garden. I'm going to take the ZV-1 back to my office, talk a little bit more about the pros and cons of this camera, and that way I could have a little bit more of a final thought on who this camera is for. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, so now that we're back at my office or slash home, I wanted to go ahead and talk about some of the features that I wasn't able to talk about back at the park. Starting out with video, the ZV-1 does shoot 4K at 24, 25, and 30 frames per second at up to 100 megabits per second, which is pretty insane to think about considering how small this camera is. Now, if you wanted to shoot at 1080, it unlocks a little bit more frames per second, starting out with 24, 25, 30, 60, and you also do get 120 frames per second, which is pretty awesome. You have a lot of flexibility if you want to shoot in 1080p. You also do get S-Log 2 and 3 along with Hyperlog Gamma picture profiles. So when I was out vlogging at the park, I was shooting in a Cine 2 picture profile, which I do like those Cine profiles a little bit more for my workflow. It gives me a little bit better dynamic range when it comes to color correcting and color grading in post-production. So overall, I was pretty happy with the ZV-1 while shooting video. Okay, so let's talk about the ports that you'll find on the ZV-1. Sony did give the ZV-1 a 3.5 millimeter microphone jack, so if you don't want to use the onboard mic, you're able to throw one on top of the hot shoe and you'll be good to go like that. They did also include a micro HDMI along with a micro USB. That way, if you run out of battery, you could just charge it through that micro USB and you'll be good to go all day. Okay, so the last thing I really wanted to touch base on was actually the touchscreen. So Sony gave the ZV-1 a fully articulating 3-inch LCD screen. The resolution comes in at a little under 1,000,000 dot resolution, and I found the screen to be very high res and pretty bright, especially while using it out on a sunny day like today. I had no troubles viewing it or seeing what I was doing when I was vlogging, and it was quite a pleasure to use if I do say so myself. So wrapping this video up, I wanted to talk about some of the cons that I found in the ZV-1, starting out with the battery life. The battery life is pretty terrible considering how small the camera is. Sony included the NP-BX1 batteries with the ZV-1. They're rated to get you about 230 shots, which is not a lot, especially if you're trying to do both photos and videos. Now, you're gonna need at least 2 or 3 additional batteries if you want to make this camera last all day long. So the next thing I really wanted to talk about was switching between photo and video mode. Now, if you're someone who shoots in automatic between both photo and video, you're really not going to have an issue. But since I like to shoot in manual mode, this is where I found it to be a bit annoying while using this camera. When I was in photo trying to switch to video, I like to shoot manual. So to shoot manual, I had to go through a little bit more extra steps to get it to where I wanted it to be. And while shooting in video, you can't even press the shutter to take a photo, which is unfortunate. And the last thing I really wanted to talk about was the menu system. Now, knowing that the ZV-1 is a Sony camera, we all know that it's going to have its bad menu system. It's always hard to find things, especially after using the camera for quite some time. I still find myself digging through the menus for certain things. But other than those minor issues, I did find the camera to be a pretty much joy to use while I was out at the park today. But if you guys are interested in picking one of these up, I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description down below. If you guys like this video, feel free to give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop those in the comment section down below. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please consider doing so. We'll check you guys out next time.